yet? We are Gear Patrol. Woo! We're part of Gear Patrol. Woo! The outdoor and fitness part of Gear Patrol. I'm Steve Mizuki. I am the outdoor and fitness editor.
I'm Tanner Bowden. I am a staff writer, former wilderness educator. And we also sort of understand that maybe some of you don't really know what Gear Patrol is. I've kind of found it hard to explain what Gear Patrol is to people, so I'm just going to read our mission statement. Founded in 2007, Gear Patrol is an award-winning print and digital publication, store, and content studio based in New York City. Our mission is to create a world where everyone is empowered with the right products and knowledge. Whenever someone asks me what Gear Patrol is, I've found that the best way to explain it to them very quickly is just to show them our print magazine, which comes out 4 times a year. The issue we have with us here is actually our special issue from December, which is, we call it the GP 100, which is the best 100 products that were released in 2019. We have a couple issues with us, so afterwards, if you guys want to come flip through, I find that's just a really good way to get to know who we are and what we're all about. Steve and I are here to talk about some new upcoming winter products and sort of
break them down. So every single day we have conversations about everything new that's coming out. Because we cover outdoor and fitness, it's everything from mountain bike products to running shoes to CrossFit gear to skis to snowboards to goggles to climbing gear, all kinds of stuff. And so what we want to do today is kind of take you behind the curtain and show you the kind of conversations that we have about gear. So what we have are 3 classes of products, 2 products in each category, and we're going to kind of put them head to head against each other, and then you guys are welcome to weigh in on which product you think is cooler, and we'll also have some Instagram live voting at Gear Patrol's Instagram, which is at Gear Patrol. Meg down here is our social media all-star, so feel free to check that out and you can vote. And without further ado, let's dive into it with the goggle segment.
All right. So just to give you a little bit of a sense of where a lot of our conversations about products start, a lot of it is just the gigantic context in which some of these things exist. So in the world of goggles, just in the past decade, goggles have seen a crazy amount of innovation, new tech. I think it was about a decade ago that we got the first fast change interchangeable lenses. Now we have magnetic integration and color boosting lenses, and there's a technology called electrochromism, which lets you change the tint of your goggle by pressing a button, which is pretty cool. But sort of interestingly enough, all those things have happened, but the shape and form of the goggle hasn't really changed at all. There's big goggles and sort of smaller goggles, but the standard form, cylindrical or spherical, is pretty much...
Or toric.
It's pretty much what it has been. But interestingly enough, there are 2 new goggles, one that came out this winter, and the next one is coming out next winter, that are aiming to increase your field of vision, and they actually do change sort of the shape, form of the goggle. So I'm going to talk about Zeal's Beacon goggle. Which we have right here. We've had this guy for a month or 2 now. We've been testing it out. But sort of, I guess from a far distance, it probably looks just like a standard goggle. You can kind of tell in the photo here. But once you look at it up close and you turn it to the side, you see that the lens sort of tilts downward from the forehead towards the cheek. And what Zeal is doing here is they are making the top of the goggle a little bit wider and the bottom narrower. And that's actually making the lens slant inward toward your face. And that does 2 things. One, it increases your field of vision downward, which is kind of cool. I remember being 12 years old in ski school and having my ski instructors yelling at me to stop looking down at my feet while I was skiing. And this goggle sort of gives you just like a little bit extra view down there. And the second thing that it does is it cuts reflections. It cuts reflections from anything you're going to encounter, like hitting the lens. It sort of bounces up instead of like getting spread across the lens of the goggle. Yeah, so take a look, just make sure it gets back up here. And Steve has the other goggle, which came out this year.
Yeah, so what's interesting about these two goggles is they're both oriented toward increasing your field of view, especially down the hill, but the Smith approach is much different. So here we have the Smith 4D Mag, which did come out in the previous winter, but we're super excited about it. I've been riding with these the past couple of days. We were at Eldora, and then we were up in the Berthoud Pass backcountry. So I got a healthy opportunity to test them out and make the lens look a little scratchy. But basically what they did is a technology they call bird's eye, and you can kind of see on here, and when we pass it around you can see that the bottom of the goggle is super curved to open up the field of view, especially down the mountain where you want to be able to see your line when you're going down and, stay safe. Another thing though about this goggle that I'm super stoked about is the fact that I think they've finally perfected lens swapping technologies. So obviously photochromic goggles are great, but for those of us who like to, futz around with our stuff, this is like the perfect goggle. Smith has been innovating in the interchangeable lens space for years and years and years. And this is the first one that I can competently swap the goggle while wearing gloves. I'm going to demonstrate this, hopefully not drop a lens on the ground. Got my Fly-Low gardening gloves here. So basically there are just these two little tabs. You pop that, you pop that. You pull it off using magnets. How do they work? Pop it back into the magnets. You're good to go. Well, thank you.
Nice work, Steve.
Oh, thanks. You have a question? I'm sorry? Is that different than here?
So this goggle actually did come out this winter.
So this is the 40 magnet. It's not brand new, but we did just learn they did come out with a new goggle called the Squad, which is a cylindrical lens goggle that still has the mag technology, so it's a lower price point. This one's I think $280, and the new one is $220. So they are making that lens swapping technology available now at a lower price point, which often happens. Where something starts at the highest end and then it becomes standard. There was a time when certain cambers of snowboards were only available, at the high end, and now every board has all kinds of different rocker and camber, and we'll be talking more about that later. So I can pass this one around as well. So that's goggles. Next we're going to, are we ready to jump into? Yeah. So next we're going to talk about a couple of new jackets. These are both brand new. One thing that we always are looking for when we're discussing gear and trying to see what stands out is the uniqueness factor, right? Because Tanner was just talking about something the other day where he was like, here's another jacket with an invisible upgrade. And it's really true because a lot of this stuff is very hard to see. If somebody's using like some sort of, new experimental internal material, you might not be able to tell what it's doing unless you're actually testing it. I mean, Future Light's kind of like that, the North Face product, where it's like, kind of looks like any other jacket. It's only when you use it that you can appreciate it. And as members of the media, we're always looking at like, well, what can we talk about that's also fun to show and that people can very easily see what's going on. So here we have a couple of jackets. This is Mountain Hardware's Ghost Whisperer Ultralight. So if you thought the Ghost Whisperer was light, this thing's even lighter. The original Ghost Whisperer is 7.4 ounces. This one is 6.77. 6.67. Excuse me. But basically, that's like, I did the math. That's like 9% lighter, which makes a big difference when you're talking about like a travel and layering piece. They use a very rare type of down, Hungarian goose down, and it has to be harvested from the goose at like a very within a very small window of the lifespan of the goose. And what you end up with is 1,000 fill power down in this super compact jacket that literally weighs like nothing. So personally, I'm super stoked about that. This one goes for $375, launching at this show. And again, to us this stands out because we can say this thing weighs less than 7 ounces. Like that's newsworthy, and the fact that it can, pack into its own little stuff sack that's like, the size of like an 8-ball is pretty exciting. Yeah. Any kind of 8-ball you want. So that's the Ghost Whisperer Ultralight.
That's right.
Oh, sure. You guys can see just how light it is. And this is a size small, so it's actually even a little bit lighter. The 6.67 is the medium.
Oh my God.
Another thing that, especially with something like insulated jackets, when we're looking at these, like every single brand on the planet makes an insulated jacket. Like Gap makes one, Uniqlo makes one, most of the brands in this room probably make one. But when you're looking at it just on the outside, it's kind of hard to tell like what's going on. Is it responsibly sourced down? Is it made well? Sometimes though, by looking at a jacket, you can tell that there's something interesting going on, which is the case with Marmot's featherless down hoodie, which uses their new warm cube technology. The name sort of explains itself. You've got all these little like pods of insulation on the inside of the jacket, and that is doing a couple things. It is creating these zones of insulation that aren't going to move around and they're going to provide sort of like a full body of warmth with minimized cold spots, and they're also creating these channels in between them which hold air when you're wearing it, and as your body heats up, you're going to warm up that air and sort of hold on to it, so you get like double benefits of warmth. And then on the outside, they've actually used sort of a more traditional baffle structure, and there's another thinner layer of insulation in there, which sort of fills in all the gaps of these channels inside. So you just have a really good jacket that's holding warmth at every single point in it. They tested this stuff at a place called the Torre Technorama, which sounds like a roller skating rink. But is like essentially like a lab where they can control the temperature and climate. They can make the temperature go from -40 up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. They can create snow, rain, and wind conditions. So they had their guys testing these out with heat sensors all over them in that room. And then of course they send them to places like Antarctica to see how they actually do in the field. But we were super excited about this jacket just because it is entirely unique in the world of insulated jackets. You know, and it's nothing like the Ghost Whisperer Ultralight at all, except that it is super unique. And it's cool to see sort of two different brands existing in the exact same product category and just taking very different routes on how to approach it, and how to equip people with the right thing. Oh, and the price on that one is $400, and that one's coming out in fall. All right, so we're going on to our third and final category. We have a set of skis and we have a snowboard, which seem very dissimilar, but these actually sort of exist for a very similar reason. Thank you. Another thing that we talk about all the time when we're looking at new products is brand story, and how a brand exists within the space, what their history is, where they started, where they are now, what they're doing. So starting with Line, this is the Blade ski. Line, in my memory as a preteen, I want to say, Line was like the freestyle twin tip ski company. And I think within the ski industry, they sort of have that reputation. Even just their branding is super playful, and they're more known, I think, for sort of like flexi fun, park skis, all mountain skis, powder skis, stuff like that. But this ski is made to do pretty much one thing, and that's just carve. This is a carving ski all around. And Line did something super unique and interesting with it. They used metal called titanol, which is on a lot of skis. In the construction, titanol is commonly used to give a ski more strength, power, stability, which is sort of not what Line does with a lot of its other skis. They leave metal out to make them as playful and poppy as they can. But when in putting metal in this ski, they actually left a gap right in the middle of the ski. So we have a sheet of metal up here and a sheet of metal down there. And what that does is sort of leave this gap where the ski can flex really, really well, which when you're just laying down a large turn, allows the ski to keep the power and the strength and stability of all that metal, but really just get you into a very tight, carby turn. And this ski sort of is an anomaly for Line, or at least it seems like it. But if you sort of think about where Line has been recently, it isn't really. They came out with a ski 2 years ago called the Pescado, which was a directional fish-tailed ski, and that was purely for skiing power. Last year they came out with one called the Sakana, which was also directional for fishtail, but a little bit more like all-mountain friendly. And that ski actually, which we tested out last year, is a really, really good turning ski. So they kind of just took the next step from that. And now we have this like crazy carby ski, which is sort of getting back to where skiing began, which is kind of like turning all over the mountain.
Cool. Well, wow, this mic is loud. Can you guys hear me all right? So what's interesting is that Line isn't the only brand that kind of started in one place and we're seeing move, at least with one product, in a little bit of a different direction. And that's something we're always looking at, is like kind of studying brands and wondering like why they did one thing or another, what motivated their decision, and what it says about how they're approaching products. I remember probably like, it must have been like 9 or 10 years ago, I happened to be in Lake Tahoe at Squaw and got a chance to ride with Jeremy Jones when he was first launching Jones snowboards. And he said to me flatly, like, we're never gonna make a park board. Like, that's not our style. Like, we're all mountain and we're backcountry and we're big mountain, but we're not gonna do stuff for the park kids because there's plenty of that stuff already out there. This is not a park board. However, this is the Jones Stratos, and it is interesting because it is a little bit more of a hybrid than what they've offered in the past. They talk about it having the ability to be a free ride board, but also a freestyle board, which is a little bit unusual for Jones. So basically, you have a shape that's going to support some of the more freestyle kind of stuff, but then you still have this big, like, spooned out nose, which is going to keep you on top of the powder. And it also has what they call float pack inserts, which is basically this extra set of holes on the front foot and on the back foot, so that when you really get into deep powder, you can really set your bindings back and, you know, get down and stay on top of the snow. Which is a signal, of course, that, like, they're still very true to their big mountain backcountry roots. But it is interesting to see them come out with a board that they're basically saying can ride on anything. So kind of the reverse of what Lion is doing. They're taking things in this other direction where they're kind of opening up a little bit more. And I think it's hard for a brand not to do that as they grow and expand their line. I'm still super stoked to ride this thing because it looks really fun. I guess should we pass these around too, you think? What's that? Okay. These will be up here if you guys want to come check them out. What's that? Yeah. So how about we do just like a quick, by way of applause, voting for, I'm not just, for the three classes of products. We'd just be curious to, like, hear from you guys which you prefer. So actually, can you click back?
There's also the...
Oh, yeah.
There's also voting on Instagram under your patrol handle.
Yeah, so pop over there. All right, so go back one more. Okay, so first off, the Zeal Beacon versus the 4D Mag. Zeal Beacon. 4D Mag. Okay, I think that was a tie. All right, the Marmot Warm Cube Featherless Hoodie. I do think that one's pretty cool. Versus the 6.67 ounce Ghost Whisperer Ultralight.
You're tipping the scale. I described it.
Tilting things a little bit. All right, now we're going to find out how many boarders and how many riders there are, or how many skiers, or should I say, skriders are in the group. This is a term I'm trying to get out there. You guys don't have to give me any credit, but skriding is when you're with a group of skiers and boarders, and you want to tell your friends that you were on the mountain. You could say, yeah, we went skiing or we went riding, but they're going to get a mental picture that's different than what you actually did. You say we went skriding. Then they know there were some skiers, some boarders. Anyway, for all the skriders out there, Line Blade skis. Woo! Jones Stratos, snowboard. Yeah! So I do want to say thanks. Actually, you can flip to that last slide. Little shout out to Glenn Flake there. We do want to thank all you guys for coming. We definitely want to thank OR for having us. Are there any questions? We can probably just pass a mic around if there are any questions. Questions? Any questions? Anything?
Yeah, we're happy to talk about any of these products or Gear Patrol in general.
Yeah, feel free to come up, check out the magazines. Yeah. That's it, I think. Is that it? That's it. Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.